Rock of Ages. When that title pops into your head, you'll most likely have one of two reactions. Either you get a giant flood of nostalgia and go, oh yeah, that game. Or you sit there looking at me confused going, what? I recently got back into the series, so I wanted to go through all 3 games in the series and see if they've stood the test of time. After all, it's almost always a relaxing trip when traveling into the past, especially today, where every single game is in the mood of, oh, I must improve the last game or else I'll fall. Which sucks. In case you've never heard of Rock of Ages, it's basically a tower defense game where you travel through time eras, trying to defend your castle with units ranging from towers, explosions, and wild animals, except you also get to attack with a big boulder. The thing is, the trilogy is a bit older, with the first game getting released all the way back in 2011, and the newest installment getting released in 2020. That's 6 years ago. Just let that sink in. I'll rate them in gameplay, their aesthetics, their music tracks, and their replayability, all from my personal opinions because I'm biased like that. So let's get into it, shall we? These headphone cords suck. The first game released all the way back in 2011, as I said, and it was, I think, more or less meant as a one-time gag. If you compare it to the future games, you can tell that this was meant to be a quick game to have fun in and laugh at, with not that much being implemented. Aside from that, you can really tell that this game is old. I mean, come on. I can't tab out and my actual screen resolution changes on boot up. Hell, there's not even a feature for deleting your save data. And yes, those are positives for nostalgia. Aside from that though, the gameplay was, and honestly still is, very unique in today's standards. I mean, who the hell comes up with an idea of playing as a giant fucking boulder rolling down a track to smash your enemy's castle gate and make them fart when rolling them over? These guys, they're geniuses. Jokes aside though, the idea for a tower defense game where you play as both sides is in my eyes a unique concept for the genre. You play in the shoes of Sisyphus, who got sick of rolling this shit-ass bitch of a ball up a steep-ass hill, and you want to get revenge on the shithead who made you do this in the first place. So what do? Oh, nothing major. We just go through this guy's gate, go through the entirety of time and Europe, because and then chillax at the end. Anyway, there are a couple things you can nag at in terms of gameplay. For example, the AI sucking major ass sometimes, and there being one defense that's completely busted in terms of balance, but it's still fun as hell. So in my eyes, a 9 out of 10 there. The aesthetics hold up quite well too. You're meant to be a giant ass rock rolling through ages of time. I think the art style definitely shows that. Plus, detail. Props to the devs for high quality art and somehow being able to keep the game under 1 gig. So, aesthetics, 9 out of 10. As for the music... Okay, so the music is already really good when it's just like this. But once you start rolling down the track... Ooh, that extra feeling for action. That simple bass gives it all the oomph that it needs. And don't even get me started on what happens when one person is close to losing. God, that drama and tension. Easy 10. I would honestly give it 11 if I could. That being said, the replayability is very lacking. You can easily finish the entire game in a single day, and aside from time challenges, an obstacle course, and ski ball for some reason, there's not really much that motivates me to play the game again. There's no special hard mode aside from maybe the time challenge, but even that's just making you beat your own time rather than others when the leaderboard ranking looks like this. 4 out of 10 on replayability, not that good. Overall, an 8 out of 10. Pretty nice, actually. It sets the foundation for the rest of the series. A very stable foundation, actually. So, onward to the sequel. Now, when dealing with a sequel to a game, you'd think that they would try to refine the concept on what made the game work, right? But did they succeed on that? Well, yeah, actually, really well at that. The way you choose your units and boulders, yes, plural, has changed, making it not too overwhelming in terms of choice mid-round, and the enemies perfectly encapsulate the feeling of sequality. Is that a word? What? The theme has changed slightly to... The theme has changed slightly from you going through time to now you mainly just going through Europe, though still through time, just not consistently forward. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to the original, but much better balanced and a lot more fun. Plus, there are new additions too, and their fun is all hell too. All in all, they took the half-joke concept from the first game and made it into an actually really fun and heavily polished experience. And yeah, they absolutely succeeded in that. Okay, except for the part where the AI still sucks sometimes, and the fact that when you're done building, you just have to sit there and wait for your boulder to finish. Either way, you can have a lot of fun rolling down a track at fucking Mach 9 or some shit like that, which makes it shine for me personally. A solid 9 out of 10. Aside from the obvious quality increase for all the textures and models, this game really one-ups the first installment in terms of design and quality. Everything generally just looks cleaner and, well, more polished. And along with that, they added extra detail not present in the previous game, only adding more flavor to the game. This just goes to show that games don't really need giant flashy visuals that blind every other person, as simply just a couple of effects that purely fit the theme of the game are enough. 10 out of 10. Now, music. Unlike the first game where you only had 5 music tracks depending on the map theme, you now have 15 unique music tracks for every level, not including boss levels for both games. And some tracks are really good, not gonna lie. Plus, some of them, maybe if not all of them for all I know, reference some popular old school music track. Though I feel like they did kind of ruin one feature. You remember how I mentioned that when one person is close to losing in the first installment that the music shifts up in pitch? Well, in the second game, the pitch still does go up, but it's now dependent on how low the HP is for the loser, instead of being a fixed pitch shift at a fixed value. The pitch gradually increases as the health decreases. It's not that noticeable anymore, and the tension doesn't rise nearly as much as it does in the first game. Still, I'd say that this is a solid 9 out of 10 nonetheless. Okay, replayability. Still sucks. It suffers the same issue as the first game. Once you're done with the story mode, there's pretty much nothing you can do after that. Even though they added a difficulty setting, I honestly cannot tell the difference between easy and hard, aside from maybe there being like 2 less units. You can't tell shit. You still have the time trials and the obstacle courses, but that's really it. I will say though, because of the improved visuals and such, it has me hooked a lot more often than the last game, but it's still not anything that noteworthy. 5 out of 10. Rock of Ages 2 gets a 8.25 out of 10 on average. A part of me wants to bump this up to an 8.5 because of how fun this is to play compared to the first one, but that'd be cheating, wouldn't it? Anyway, on to the third game. My hand is out of the frame. Now, when dealing with the third game in a trilogy, you would think that they would try to add more to the concept that would make the game work in the first place in the first 2 installments, right? Right? Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I genuinely think that they failed with this one. But that's a personal opinion of mine. Different companies worked on this game, and I think you can definitely tell. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing, we'll get to that in a second. Personal opinions aside, the gameplay in this one is mostly the same. Build, boulder, boom. Though at least now you have something to do while waiting for your boulder. There are some new and interesting units, except for this one, because oh my god, how do you beat this? Like, whose idea was this? Shoot me, peasants! Oh god, no, not that thing! Ah! It actually helped me. Oh my god, what is this? There are new. enemies, there is a font I have no idea how to read, but this is very important. There's a whole new game mode. Yeah! Instead of fighting against a singular AI boulder, how about you fight against like 15? Unfortunately, you can't play as the attacker on this one, so that's a minus from me. Story-wise, this time you now travel through time, and only through time. Good idea overall, just that there's a teeny tiny problem. This shit's just a reskin of the second game. Also, some units legitimately do nothing against the eye, only against real players. And no one is playing these games anymore, sadly. At least I haven't been able to encounter literally anyone. However, the other game modes like Time Trial, Obstacle Course and such are now mandatory to play, as they now give you stars, which are the things you need to progress in the story mode in the first place. Odd choice in my eyes, but this also means that some modes are exclusively limited to specific levels. That being said though, every single level has a unique track depending on what mode you're playing in, which is actually pretty interesting, but in my eyes, it's not enough to save anything really. Gameplay, 7 out of 10. It's still a great gameplay loop, don't get me wrong, it's just that I feel like a lot could have been done better. By the way, when I said this feels like a reskin, I think nothing shows that better than the art style. Look at these two screenshots. Can you tell me which one's from the second game and which one's from the third? Because without playing it, these two could really seem like they come from the same game, but the left one's actually the third one in this case. There are new assets, don't get me wrong, but for the most part it just feels like I'm playing a modded version of Rock of Ages 2. Just an 8 out of 10 from me, really. God, these headphones are annoying. Whew. Okay, now that I got out of the... Okay, now that I got... Okay, now that I got that... What the fuck? Okay, now that I got that off my chest, let's talk music. As I said earlier, the development team changed for this game, and you can very clearly tell that in the music department. The first two games had medieval/orchestral music, whereas the third game pivots towards hard rock while bouldering. I will say though, that does increase the action feeling, I'll give it that. Plus, they reference one of my favorite music pieces, In the Hall of the Mountain King. Some might see this as a positive, some might see this as a negative. Personally, I actually like the new direction of music, even if it slightly loses the feeling that the older games had. A 10 out of 10 really, they nailed the music pretty much. Lastly, replayability. I'll be honest, I only played the game once. The game gets advertised as make and break because it has a level editor. Said level editor, however, sucks major I kid you not, it's not fun using it since it doesn't even seem to follow its own rules half the time. Oh, you wanna connect this node with this one? Well, too bad, dumbass, you can't. Oh, you wanna make this part only have a fence? Well, too bad, dickhead. Here, have a fence that might as well cover the entire track. Oh, you wanna play Gets an AI on here? No, you ain't doing that. Hi, Editor Rainbow here. So, as it turns out, this isn't true. You actually can play against an AI in the level editor, except you can only play it in the war game mode. The reason I didn't know about this is because literally nothing tells you that you can play against AI, and no other game mode does it, so I'm not sure why this would be. I mean, it makes sense because it's the only game mode where you would actually need to test with AI, but still, there's no mention of this, no other game mode does this, and frankly, still, what the fuck? As I said earlier, they merged the alternate game modes into the story mode. The replayability is now much more limited than before. A much bigger focus was put into the level editor rather than the story mode, which, like I said, just doesn't work well, so the replayability is practically zero in my eyes. As for the things that make it unique, it's honestly not enough. 2 out of 10. I replayed this game pretty much only for background footage, really. I had more fun playing the first game. A 6.75 out of 10 on average. Honestly, pretty disappointing. It feels like they rushed it or they didn't address the main fun points like the first two did. So overall, I feel like the game's held up pretty well in this time. They put a good twist into the usual tower defense gimmick and kept expanding on that. Sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. So these are the final ratings I have for each game. I'll be honest, in my head I would have said Rock of Ages 2 higher and 3 much lower, but these are, I suppose, my true ratings when I'm not looking at the things at face value. Maybe. That being said, I do still want to give some honorable mentions for each game. For Rock of Ages 1, the fact that this game was likely meant to be a one-off game, it's honestly very well balanced. It uses the famous text-to-speech chat voice from that one meme that I forgot the name of, if it even has a name.
Hey you, John Madden. Wow, what a good game.
This game's cube boulder is really shitty to control, but it's at least technically balanced still, which actually still makes it fun to play. And the humor in the cutscenes is honestly pretty hilarious at times. Future me, you can insert like, I think the "this is Sparta" meme or one of those, I don't know. No. For Rock of Ages 2, Napoleon actually speaks French here.
Ah, mon ami, je vais vous expliquer les règles de cette guerre.
Yes, that's a positive. It's hilarious considering how the dialogue is still actually English. They improved the, quote, me manually shooting at enemy boulder unit. And the UI and gameplay actually feel good to use instead of being slightly clunky at times. Why is this the symbol that I make? What does this describe? As for Rock of Ages 3, the Avalanche game mode, the new one, is actually honestly still really fun even though I can't play it. The intro sequence is pretty funny, not gonna lie. And they at least tried with the level editor. I'll have to give them that. Okay, I'm out of talking material now. I really wish that I could play this game online with others, or the fact that I could actually use the level editor. But alas, I can't really do much more than complain, I guess. Nonetheless, I hope that you had fun watching / listening to me blabbering about a more older game, purely because I wanted to shine some light on the genius behind this concept of a game. Unless I'm maybe over-exaggerating it a bit. Over-exaggerating? What the Thanks for sticking with me. I'm gonna head out now and run somebody over with a big-ass boulder. Okay, bye! Oh, hey, look at that. I even made it to Can you That's spawn camping, that's just unfair.